when you speak about pre-seed or seed or inception businesses, it's not, in my idea, it's 99.9% the founders, because most of the time the idea that you start with is not the idea that you're going to raise your A round. The way I looked at it, I always preferred previous business owners. I always preferred to recruit people that were previously owners of their business. It doesn't matter if it was a startup. It can be a services company, it can be whatever, but they knew more or less what I'm going through when I'm paying my salaries to my employees, going to raise money. They know what's runway looks like and what's net cash burn and all these kind of things.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Immigrant Nation podcast. And today we do have the pleasure of hosting Michael Assraf, an inspiring entrepreneur from Jerusalem, Israel, and a visionary founder of Vicarious. Vicarious is an Israeli startup which develops an autonomous end-to-end vulnerability remediation platform on cybersecurity. Michael started his entrepreneurial journey in a garage with two other friends. What an American story. Michael turned a bold idea into a global cybersecurity powerhouse, protecting critical apps and assets for companies worldwide. With a background in industrial engineering and MBA from Tel Aviv University, Michael has successfully, listen to this, raised over $56 million in funding to revolutionize how business defends against cyber threats. Today, he's not just leading innovation in cybersecurity, but also mentoring the next generation of tech talent. This is why we have you here, making a significant impact on the global stage. Mr. Assraf, growing up in Jerusalem, how did your early life and cultural background influence your path toward becoming an entrepreneur in tech industry? And could you please hand that with why Americans say one thing and mean completely another thing?
Okay, so first, thank you for the intro, Martin, and thank you for inviting me to this amazing podcast. So how did my entrepreneur journey begin? It's when I grew in Jerusalem is not tech hub, even in Israel. Like, you have Tel Aviv, which all the startups are there, and you have Jerusalem, which is like second in line. But when I grew up, I was amazed by the fact that some dude from Jerusalem or from Kenya or from whatever can have his computer and build something exactly like someone from Tel Aviv, California, New York, whatever you're in the world, and basically kind of democratized everything that is going on with the way you build venture. And I was fascinated by computers. I was like the first one with computer in my neighborhood. I was the first one with CD burner in my neighborhood. So I had people coming over to me to burn CDs of Red Alert and all these ancient games. And starting from that, I started to learn how to code on my own. And I had a server in my sister room in my house, and I was hosting on it like a lot of different websites. And I started with like PHP and a lot of technologies that probably no one uses today. And then I kind of joined the army, and in the army I was in infantry, and afterwards I spent some more time in logistics, and in logistics units I kind of exercised a lot of the things that I did with software engineering. I was building stuff, and the Israeli army it's like a greenhouse for creativity and greenhouse for basically implementing what you dream of, because in the army they give you responsibilities for things they probably shouldn't give to like 18 years old dude, in terms of money, budget, like what you're building, how you execute it. And then in parallel I started to study my bachelor degree in industrial engineering, and there I started to learn more formal way into engineering. Despite it was not software engineering, I did learn some software engineering courses, and I really, really like it. And I started to work for many startups, and fast forward I started to work for startups in, let's say, 2008, 2009. And in 2016, I started Vicarious, as you said, with two co-founders.
That's really interesting. So, based on your historical culture, based on how you were raised and how you understood life. What changed once you started your organization and then you ended up migrating to the US? What changed? What have you learned so far about business in comparison to running business in Israel?
So I can tell you two things about it. First, I think that the fact that two of my parents were software engineers contributed a lot to the fact that I started to play around with computers, and it was very important for them that I would have a computer at a very young age, and they encouraged me all the time to like learn and do more stuff around computers. So this was kind of one. About venture building, I think, and I saw recently a podcast with a VC, I don't remember the name, and they said that the major difference between a first timer that builds this venture and a second timer is that second timers always put the distribution in their initial pitch deck. First timer most of the time focus on the product. And this is something I learned the hard way, because when we started Vicarious, we started with the technology and we tried to figure out what implementations can we take and make use of that technology. So it was very iterative, because every time we were building something, and we were all engineers, so we were building it on our own. We would go to customers, they would slap us in the face and they would say that it's shit, and then we would go back and build it over and over and over again. When I'm starting my new venture now, I'm kind of putting first the distribution. Who is the customer? What's the value that the customer is going to make of it? And then figure out what's the technology and what's the right way to build it from a technological perspective. So this is something that for me is kind of the most important thing today. I'm thinking about the go-to-market strategy before I think about anything else, and this is kind of the biggest lesson that I learned from Vicarious. In terms of venture building, etc., I think that a lot of times there is advantage for first timer, because most of the time you start your venture when you're still not married, you don't have kids, you have a lot of time to spend on the ventures. So I think that's kind of like the best age. In Israel, we finished the army at like 21, 22. So the best age is to start your venture between the moment you graduate or you complete the army until the moment you're kind of getting married and starting to build your family. I moved to the US I started obviously Vicarious when I was still single, and I moved to the US on our A round when it was kind of important for our VC, like the VC that led the round kind of pushed to it very strong that the CEO will be in the US, and ever since we grew more and more the US side of the business, despite we were kind of didn't really have any geographic place that we had most of our customers or most of our employees out of Israel. That's where we have our R&D center. But looking back, I think it was a good decision. Today, I know that my new company, I will start it here and probably keep the R&D in Israel, but definitely build it in a more US and American culture and manner, definitely from sales and marketing point of view. So yeah, I think if you would ask me one thing I can kind of tell to new entrepreneurs that come here and wants to raise money or build their own bootstrap company, is always focus on the market before you focus on technology, before you write one line of code.
Okay, so let's delve into that, because that's really important, right? You just pointed out something really critical that you learned as you're getting into or once you had gotten into business. And so the most important thing that I have learned over time is to get started in whatever it is that you want to do. You want to get started somewhere, and once you get started, then you accelerate that, right? Before you got to raising capital, how do you tweak your product so that it can fit your current market? And in today's world, are you just looking at your geographical location to satisfy what that geographical location needs? Or are you looking at the whole sphere? You're looking at the whole world to see what the need is to be able to curate the product that they need?
It's a great question. I think that as a CEO of a startup, I always looked at building a company like a marathon with short sprints in between. So, for example, the first kind of milestone that you have when you start a business is to get to the first $1 million ARR. Then you need to get to 10 million. Then you need to double that. Then you need to triple that, and all these things that investors wants to hear. So, when you build a slide deck, a pitch, investment deck, you show the investor like, okay, this is the total addressable market. This is the world, but this is where I'm going to start from. So if you're building, I don't know, a delivery app for food, you cannot go global, right? You have to start like at a certain location. So you can definitely show the investor, okay, this is the total potential. I live in Florida, so this is kind of the smaller one, and I live in Miami, and Miami alone generates, I don't know how much in food delivery. And this is kind of my first go-to market. So on the seed round, I'm going to focus on that. After we're gonna prove that, we're gonna show that our go-to-market strategy is efficient, repeatable, and we can take that and replicate it in other places in Florida, and then we can go to the US, and then we can go to the world. So it's always a gradual process, and if you would try to go global with your seed money, you might be successful if your product is good and it's you have inbound leads and everyone coming for you and just want to use the product. You can definitely do that, but building a venture is a long process. In Israel, a lot of companies are getting acquired super quickly, like after 1 or 2 years, but most businesses, it takes them years to build a company. Like at Vicarious, it took us like 4 years to get to a real product market fit, and then we kind of started to grow the company according to the VC book. They want 2x to 3x, 3x, 2x, 2x. That's what they want the growth to look like. But it takes time. It takes time to build an enterprise software. It takes time to build a security company. You have a lot of things that you need to do in order to even get the foot in the door. So I think if to summarize that, always look at the next milestone. Always imagine like where you want the company to be. What's the big vision? But you cannot operate with this in mind all the time. You always need to think about the next milestone. Okay, I raised the seed round. Now I need to get to 1 million. Then I need to get to that, to this, to this. So this is kind of how I always looked at it. If that makes sense.
So when you're raising capital, one of the things that I have discovered about raising capital is the venture or capital firms that are coming around to support you want to see what your leadership looks like, right? They are more interested in the type of leaders you have in your organization than the idea, because leaders is what makes a business work. So when you're building your team, when you're building leaders, what are you looking in terms of recruitment? How are you recruiting leaders?
So I think it depends on the stage of the company, because as you're raising, like I decided to leave Vicarious after our B round. A and B rounds are more data driven because you already have quite significant traction, you already have commercial success, and then they want to see that you can replicate the success and do it quickly. When you speak about pre-seed or seed or inception businesses, it's not, in my idea, it's 99.9% the founders, because most of the time the idea that you start with is not the idea that you're going to raise your A round. Okay. Mm-hmm. The way I looked at it, I always preferred previous business owners. I always prefer to recruit people that were previously owners of their business. It doesn't matter if it was a startup. It can be a services company. It can be whatever. But they knew what it's like to, like, they knew more or less what I'm going through when I'm paying my salaries to my employees, going to raise money. They know what's runway looks like and what's net cash burn and all these kind of things. So I always try to recruit this kind of people. And something that is very important, and you said it correctly, the leadership is super important. But what's even more important than this, like, you're probably gonna have 1, 2, 3 co-founders, But the first 10 people that you recruit for your company, they're the ones that will recruit the next 40. And these 50 people are the ones that are going to recruit the next 100. So if you miss out on these first 10 people, the problem is exponential. If you don't catch it on time, or you just keep on recruiting, B, C, D players. So it's, as you mentioned before, leadership is super important. And I will add on that first hires sometimes is even more crucial for the business. Like, you have to recruit the first one in the company to be A+ players, not B and not C players, because they will recruit E players, and you don't want that.
Michael, let me double down on that, right? Who do you consider an A player? I know you talked about previous business owners who really do have a fundamental idea of what it takes to run a business. They understand what a startup requires and the effort, the work, and the discipline. But what characteristics, what qualities are you looking for when you're onboarding those first 10 people, the first 40 group of people?
Okay, so when you're building a seed company or a pre-seed company, imagine that you have a marketing person, and it's one person, right? Then when the company grows bigger, you have product marketing person, you have social media person, and you have SEO person, and you have advertisement marketing person. The first guy or the first woman that you hire, they need to know, they need to be kind of jack of all trades, but they're probably not going to be they're not going to be masters of anything, right? So the first people you recruit, they need to know more or less what is, let's take marketing again as an example. They need to understand more or less what it's like to track down Google Ads or to post stuff on social media. They're not going to be the best at any of these things, but you need to count on them that they will recruit the 4 people in the future marketing team. So for me, the first people to hire are generalists with strong commitment to the team. And this kind of people, what I found is that most of the time it's people that had their own businesses. Because, for example, for me, when I started Vicarious in the first 2.5 years, it was just us. It was just the founders. So when the company, when we had our first customers, I need to go and do invoice, and then I had to go and write it in the books. So I started to know more about finance, and I'm not a finance person, no way, but I knew some of those things. So once I recruited my first finance manager, I knew which question to ask, and I knew what I wanted from them. And this is kind of what I expect from my first hire to be. And another thing I learned, you need to compensate the first hires with strong, not only salary, but also strong compensation when it comes to options, when it comes to holding in the company. And this is something I'm implementing right now in my new company.
All right. So the term I was looking for is generalist, right? That are very interestingly previous owners, because previous owners have the capacity to understand what ownership looks like. I am glad you zeroed it down to they're generalists. They're not fundamentally specialists in one particular area. They do not have what you would consider mastery, but they do have an understanding of the whole picture and what it takes to develop that. How do you talked about compensation and making compensation really attractive. At the very beginning, how do you get to a place where you're giving promises for what compensation is going to be like, yet the revenue is not there?
So another thing I figured out at Vicarious is that most of the time, employees don't understand option compensation. They just don't get it, right? Because if you're working for a public company and you're getting RSUs, you can go and see the value. Like, you know what's the price per share. You can go, you have a portal, or you can look in Google, stock price of this and that company. In startups, indifferent. In startups, most of the time, the companies do not share the stock price, right? Because they don't want to have a situation where they share the stock price and then they have a down round. Then they have to go back to their employees and tell them, listen, we told you that your stock were worth 100K, now it's worth 50. They don't want to do that because they're gonna they probably get pissed, and this is kind of counterproductive from that perspective. So what I'm doing now, and this is something I didn't do it while I started Vicarious, is that being very open about how startup valuation goes, and I'm being very open about the fact that valuation can go up and can go down. And this brings me to something that salespeople, when I was recruiting salespeople at Vicarious, they always told me, "Are you going to sell the company, or you're going to go to an IPO?" And I told them, for me, this is a very stupid question, because if I'm recruiting great salespeople, and if I'm recruiting great marketing people, and if I'm recruiting great, engineers, it will be up to them. So when a salesperson asks me, "Are you going to go IPO or are you going to sell the company?" I'm telling him it depends on who I'm going to recruit. Are you going to hit your targets? Are you going to hit your quotes? If you're going to hit your quotes, we're going to take the company to IPO. If not, we might sell it in the middle of the process of building it. So that's kind of how I look at it. So let's say that you're raising a seed round. Sit down with someone, tell them, "Okay, I'm going to give you 1%, 2%. This is the valuation of the company. This is how funding works. We're going to raise now at $20 million. Then if you're going to do a good job, you're going to then raise at $40 million, and your stock going to be worth 1.5x. And this is how it works." And this is something that you can definitely explain to your founding engineering team, because they're like 5 or 6 people. Once it's going to start growing bigger, you kind of more standardize the way it works with a bigger team.
Very interesting. I am glad you walked us through that process, because across the globe we have thousands and thousands of immigrant students that want to understand what raising capital for their initial entrepreneurial journey looks like, and walking us through that process really helps. So talk to us about what you're doing now.
So it's still on stealth mode. So I'm still not out there. What fascinated me about cybersecurity, for even when I was at Vicarious, is that open source has been affecting almost every aspect of SaaS software. So today you're not going to find a single SaaS product that doesn't use Apache Kafka or Apache Spark or other solutions. But in security space, in the security side of things, we had very limited projects and very limited initiatives that are associated with open source. And now in my 9-year tenure at Vicarious, I saw how this market changes. I saw that there is more and more open source products that are in a good level, that are VC backed, that have commercial offering, and they're good. That kind of teased me into figure out what can be done with open source. My new company is going to be a completely open source company in this space, in the space of open source, AI, security, and I'm super excited. This is, I think it's going to be very, very big, and I'm currently kind of starting to recruit the team and raising the initial funds from the company. Hopefully, there's going to be some more news coming up soon.
Okay, so walk us through what transition looks like. You've started a small business from a garage in Israel. You've transitioned from Israel to stateside. As an immigrant, what are some of the traditional handicaps that you are coming across that when you're going into business that are not the same parameters as in Israel, and how is culture being a conflict in that endeavor?
So first, I think that as an entrepreneur, if you can't adapt to changes quickly, you're probably not going to be a great entrepreneur. I think that's the case both internally, personally, and externally. If you don't understand on your A round that now you have a board and you need to communicate with them in a good manner, you're not going to do well. If from the inner side of things, if you started the company, as you said, 3 people, and then you grow it to 80 people, and you didn't figure out that you as a person, as a leader, need to change, because you're no longer have only your friends in the company. It's a bigger company. You have different roles, different personalities, and different cultures. So you have cultural differences in the company. You need to adapt. Same goes personally. You know, when I married my wife, I told her, listen, I'm not promising you that we'll always be happy, because sometimes you have ups and downs, but I promise you that you'll always have interesting life with me. And we did have interesting life. We lived with my wife. I moved like seven apartments in we've been married for like 2-3 years, and I'm lucky to have a wife that is kind of, I don't know if she likes it, but she's okay with it, because she also lived in her previous life in many places. So I think that from culture perspective, and we talked about it previously on our chit chat, I think that Florida is kind of very similar to where I'm coming from. So in Israel, we're very direct. We are war people. Even the food here is kind of more similar to Israel. So I think that we kind of feel very comfortable, and we feel very at home in Florida. And I think that the major difference between Israelis and Americans in general is that we have something in Israel called chutzpah. You know what chutzpah means? You heard about it?
I think I have an idea, but I'll let you elaborate.
So chutzpah, you don't have a direct translation to it in Hebrew, but chutzpah is, for example, for an Israeli entrepreneur from Tel Aviv to think that he can win against the biggest cybersecurity companies in the world. So he will go ahead, build a product, raise money, and think that he's better than them, and thinks he's going to beat them. And at the end, he beats them. So this is kind of the Israeli chutzpah. Like we kind of are limitless when it comes to what we think we can do. Yeah. And this is different, and this is something that it's very important for me to kind of inherit into my kids, and I hope we will be able to do it. But I think it's kind of the major difference out than the surface differences in culture, like directness and all this kind of stuff that we talked about before.
So you went to Tel Aviv University. How did that prepare you to not just be competitive in the Israeli market, but also in the global market?
So Tel Aviv University, I think it's the university with the highest, out of Stanford, it's the university with the highest amount of entrepreneurs that build unicorn companies. I think that in the university, and I did like my master's degree there, so I didn't really have the college life and all the fun parts about it, so it was mostly professional. I think that they managed to create an environment, and they also brought a lot of ex-entrepreneurs, like ex-CEOs, ex-founders, ex-entrepreneurs, that told them about their story, and that what kind of pushed everyone in this group of people in this master's degree to go ahead and open their own companies. And actually, I think that from my class we have like 5 or 6 companies. Some of them are really big now. So I think they did a good job, just like you're doing with your podcast. They just gave us the inspiration on how other people did it, and then when you see other people that do it, you said, okay, I also want to do it, or I can also do that. And this is something great about your podcast. I think that today it's even more radical. Today, with AI, with how accessible software engineering is, how easy it is to learn, I think everyone can build very big companies, and it doesn't matter if you live in Kenya, or you live in Israel, or you live in Miami Beach, or you live in I don't know where. So this is kind of the most important thing that I took from my experience at Tel Aviv University. Not necessarily, accounting courses or marketing courses, specifically that.
Immigrants across the globe, I told you, this show is not about bullshit. We are here to equip you and to give you the skills, the confidence, the knowledge you need to become anything and everything you want to be in life. Talking about chutzpah, you mentioned collaboration, and when I say that, you started talking about collaboration with your wife, where you, as an early entrepreneur, you want to have that collaborative relationship where she understands your goals, she understands your vision, she understands the type of lifestyle you want to work to, and you likewise, and together you start forming a team. What has collaboration looked like outside of marriage, outside of personal relationships? And if you can just kind of deliberate on what collaboration was like for you, especially during your early years at Vicarious with Yossi and Roy, I'm sorry.
So again, and this is kind of very, like you mentioned it correctly. In the beginning, everyone is doing everything, right? So you have everyone writing code, which afterwards is not the case. I think that as the company grow older and get bigger, everyone needs to find kind of their strengths and their position in the company to where they think they're going to be the most beneficial for the business. I think that in terms of personal relationship, my wife always worked for startups and tech companies, so it was kind of easier for her to understand why do I need to go to a conference? Why do I need to go to Las Vegas for 1 year, for 1 week or 2 weeks? Because she was also in cybersecurity, so she knew what Black Hat and what DEF CON are, which is a very big cybersecurity conference. So I didn't have to explain to her all these kind of things, and this makes life definitely easier. The fact that she kind of lived in many places before even knowing me also helped with the fact that she understood when we needed to move out of Israel after she moved into Israel, and we had to change places all the time. Same goes with money, by the way. There are certain periods of time at Vicarious, definitely in the beginning, that I almost didn't have any salary. So, you need to move to a smaller apartment. You need to understand that right now we can't do this or can't do that because there's simply no money. And I think in terms of collaboration, if you kind of understand each other and understand where the other person is coming from, I think it's beneficial for everyone, right? Because at the end, you're building wealth not only for yourself, you're building wealth for your family, for your kids, for your wife, for your bigger family circle. So once everyone understands that, it makes things much more easier.
For people who are going into what you consider as business partnerships, what are some of the lessons you took from your business relationships in terms of partners? How did you set expectations for your partners, and how did you hold each other accountable for those?
So that's another very big thing about getting started with co-founders. I think that in the beginning, you're friends, right? Because most of the time you start a business with your friends, but at a certain point, the relationship becomes a bit more different. Definitely when the company is growing bigger, so you kind of have other people around the company that either contribute money, or because they're investors, or they're sitting in the board and they have their opinion, or they're very high-ranked employees and they also have their opinion. So as a CEO, you kind of become the center of all this kind of stuff. And for me also, by moving to the US, like I was not in Israel anymore, so it was kind of changing the interaction, the inner interaction. One thing I would definitely recommend for new founders and new CEOs that start a new company is to have very clear boundaries on what everyone is doing. So who is in charge of the technology, who is in charge of the business side, who is in charge of I don't know what. Like, it needs to be super clear from the beginning. What are the expectations from each one? And we talked before about how like it's kind of the US culture is a bit indirect, and in other places it's more direct. If you're not honest with the performance of people and and how you're doing when it comes to you, when it comes to your co-founders, when it comes to your first hires. When it's like when the company is small, you can still cope with that. But when the company is growing bigger, the problem grows exponentially. So a small problem on the pre-seed or the seed round will become major acoustic issue when the company is growing bigger. So it's better to tackle those problems when you're still small.
Very interesting. So life happens every day, and as life happens every day, you kind of form what my friend Brian Tracy calls a pendulum of life, right? You're either getting in shit, you're getting out of shit, or you're about to get into shit. That kind of, to me, summarizes what business is. Part of that is, for example, pandemics will happen. You will not have enough resources to make a certain business decision, or you will not have enough resources to fund your marketing budget. As a new entrepreneur, how do you navigate these difficult situations?
Okay, so I will say two things about it. First, I think that a startup is a company that always in stress of money, is always in it always don't have enough money to do whatever it wants. It always undercapacitated, meaning that you want more employees to do more work, and it's always at a state of emergency. When I used to have intro calls with my the employees that were joining Vicarious, I used to show them the values of the company, and one of the values was sense of urgency. If a startup lose sense of urgency, the chances for it to succeed are dramatically decreasing, because at the core, if you look at values and culture, the only difference between a startup and a big company is sense of urgency. You're gonna release features faster because you're scared that tomorrow the business is gonna shut down if you're not gonna do it. You're scared to have high churn rates because if you're gonna have high churn rates, you're not gonna be able to raise your B round and the company will shut down. So you have to fix the bugs right now. A company that is profitable, that sits on cash, and if the stock is gonna make 20% or 25%, it doesn't really matter to anyone. They don't have it. They have big and expensive R&D teams, and they have big and expensive sales and marketing people. So this is kind of, for me, this is kind of the difference between bigger startup. And I think that having not enough money and have all these constraints doesn't make you less strong. It makes you stronger. Because we talked about it before, like if you would look today, who are the biggest tech companies in the world, you will see that all the CEOs are immigrants. Most of them didn't come from money, right? They didn't have easy life when they grew up. So the fact that you're in have all these constraints doesn't necessarily makes you weak. It makes you much stronger. And I will give another story about COVID. So in cybersecurity, most user acquisition activities are used to be done in a direct manner, meaning that you would send an email, you would do LinkedIn outreach, you would go to conferences, you're going to do a lot of physical meetings together and all this kind of stuff. When COVID hit, I was in San Francisco in a conference called RSA, and it was in February or March, and already in April, it was 2020, everyone started talking about COVID, and we kind of saw in the conference how the world shuts down, because as the conference went on, more people found out to have COVID and all this kind of stuff. So we saw the world shutting down, and we said, okay, now people are not going to meet anymore. They're not going to be conferences. What the hell? How the hell are we going to have customers? And that's what drove us to change the product into self-serve. And thank God that's what made the company so successful ever since. Because if we wouldn't change the product into self-serve, we wouldn't have, the company wouldn't have the product market fit it had. And this relates to other reasons why, and mostly about product strategy. But the fact that COVID hit made us cope with that, made us change the product, which then led to the product market fit we needed, and to the traction and commercial success we wanted. So I don't see like these hurdles as problems. You need to see how you take advantage of this kind of stuff,
Yeah. So in business, you're either growing or you're dying. You've talked about being or attending several conferences during our conversation. How are you sharpening your skill on a daily basis so that you remain relevant in the marketplace?
So this is something I also did with customers and investors. As a founder, you most of the time getting no's from everyone, right? You go to investors, like most of them tells you no, I don't want to invest. Same goes with customers, like they will tell you no. So my strategy, and I will give you numbers. When I was raising the seed round for Vicarious, I met 120 investors. When I raised the A round, I met over 100 investors. The B round was easier because it was metric based. It was not necessarily kind of selling a dream. But today, back then, I was kind of panicking because you're meeting 100 investors. Everyone tells you no. You're freaking out, right? What am I going to do? I'm not going to be able to fund my business. But the thing, the major thing that you need to keep in mind while this process happens is that first, you don't need 10 investors telling you yes. You need one. This is one. Second, when a customer tells you, I don't like your product, it doesn't mean that he's not going to buy the product in the future. It means that right now the product is not good enough. And it makes sense because most companies at their seed round, their product is not good enough. So I look at these two things as ways to make your pitch, your product, the way you approach investors much better. And today, I'm doing it in a way that makes me happy. I'm going on investors meeting, an investor tells me no. I will take his feedback back and I will try to figure out what to do with it. It doesn't mean that every feedback is valid, right? Because sometimes, he doesn't like you personally, or he fought with his wife in the morning and he's telling you bullshit. But if the feedback is valuable, you take it, you make use of it, and you move on. And I kind of today turn it into a place where I enjoy this process. I really enjoy it. So my message for young entrepreneurs today is that if someone tells you no, if someone tells you your product is shit, your company is shit, whatever, cherish that, because that's what's gonna make you better.
Yes, I completely agree. Many immigrant entrepreneurs juggle multiple roles and responsibilities when they are starting a business. How can they benefit from the trends of integration, consolidation, and automation in consideration of where cybersecurity is today and what you're projecting it's going to look like in the next several years, considering AIs in the marketplace now?
I think that today, I had a dinner some time ago with a lot of founders here in the Miami area. And today a lot of VCs talk about when are we going to have the first $1 billion company that has one employee? Because today you can build a company from A to Z with automated financing, with automated CRM, everything on the back office is going to be completely automated, and just have an amazing product, and just generate revenue out of it. So I think that if you see today, for example, let's say that you want to hire someone, when I started Vicarious, you would need to have a special system to do payroll, and this system had to integrate into whatever ERP it was, and it was very complex. Today, you have stuff like Deal or Papaya Global and all these companies. You can hire someone in 2 minutes, right? You don't even need to have entity. You don't even need to submit financial or tax report in this place. You can just start working with someone automatically. And I'm not even mentioning stuff like Upwork and Fiverr and all these places for people to do quick work. So I think that, again, and this goes back to the constraints you have. when you don't have money, when you don't have time, when you need to think about how to pay rent and all this kind of stuff. That's it. Like, once you're gonna be successful with that, once you're gonna cope with that, once you do gonna have money, once someone is gonna give you the seed money, you're gonna explode, right? And that's exactly the behavior that investors are looking for when they invest in a company. They don't want company on the seed round to be fat and have expensive engineers and have too many engineers that doesn't do anything. So I think, again, let's go back to the constraint and the hurdles that you have as a new entrepreneur that makes you stronger. And I encourage, like today, like new founders to have, as you said, all these tools and AI and use AI to learn how to code. You have amazing product called Replit that teach you how to code and even write code for you. So I definitely agree with you. I think that automation, AI, and all this kind of stuff made the barrier to entry for new founders super low, even if you don't have a lot of time or money.
Okay. So sometimes when entrepreneurs are looking to get into business, they are holding back because they are looking at the marketplace and they think, okay, the governments are not working the way we're supposed to. The market is a scary place, and we probably want to hold back until when the atmosphere is the right place for us to get into the market. Is that an argument that holds water?
I think that, like, if you feel that about something you're building, then maybe you're not excited enough about what you're building, because Amazon started like an online bookstore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And back then, like when Jeff Bezos started it, he was not a rich person. He just, I don't know what he did, like how he funded his first few years, but it's very common to hear about founders that, you know, sell their houses and live in rent in order to fund their business. Like, if you don't have this fire in you, like to start it, maybe it's just not the right idea, or you're not too excited about it, or something like this. I think that like you will always find excuses. You will always find excuses. Like the biggest company we see today started when the economy was going bad, when the interest rates were high, when it was hard to raise money. But again, money is not guaranteed for success. When we started Vicarious, we were always estimated in terms of valuations. Our funding rounds were always lower, and I saw that in other subcategories of security. It's not always that the one that gets the most amount of funding has the big success. It's the ones that figure out distribution. It's the ones that figure out the right product. Maybe it's not the best product, but it's the right product for the market they're selling to. And that goes back to distribution. If you know what you want to sell and who you want to sell it to, that's kind of should be your North Star. This is where you should go after.
So, looking forward, what emerging cybersecurity trends do you foresee that entrepreneurs across the globe, especially immigrants, would want to focus their energy and time in tackling those issues, because they are challenges that will be coming up and there is going to be a need in the marketplace?
I think that cybersecurity is always one leg behind technology. So imagine that today you have AI, now you have cybersecurity for AI. So you're not starting to see more cybersecurity companies that have AI. You have autonomous cars, and there were some cybersecurity companies that were building cybersecurity for autonomous cars. So I think that looking at the cybersecurity market as a homogenic market, you're building a cybersecurity company, is not correct. It's like I will tell you, okay, the automotive market is one market. It's not. You have a lot of subsectors. The cybersecurity market is huge. If we talk about even some segments of the market, they're worth billions of dollars. Like if you talk about endpoint security market, it's companies they're worth billion, and their revenue is 20-30 billion dollars. So I think it depends on what you're doing in cybersecurity, just like it depends on what you're doing if you're building a new CRM or you're building a new marketplace for whatever. I wouldn't kind of limit myself oh, I'm not doing cybersecurity because there are too many companies. No, it's not the case. If you have good idea how to market it, how to distribute that, and do all this kind of stuff, that's still novel. It doesn't matter if the product is in cybersecurity or in marketing.
You're looking to get into the marketplace today. What are some of the fundamental qualities that you need to develop as a leader?
By marketplace, you mean like to build a new startup, like to build a new
Yes.
and new problem. I think that adaptivity and very thick skin is like the two biggest things that you need, because as I said before, like startups is ups and downs on a daily basis, and it's mostly downs, right? Because the employee you want to recruit told you no, the investor told you no, you had a fight with I don't know who. It's mostly downs. But the thing to remember is that the fact that they're always downs doesn't mean that you're on a trend line of going down. Because if you had all the things that I mentioned before, but then you signed $1 million deal, that will be enough for you to raise the era, right? So it's not necessarily that you're going down, it's just you had a few bumps along the way, but overall you're skyrocketing. So I think what's important here is to always put things in perspective. Okay, a lot of people told you no, okay, take the feedback, iterate your deck or the product or whatever, and then go again. Just be very persistent. And I think that people underestimate the persistency component of the founder. If you're persistent, and you mentioned it on our previous call, if you're persistent and the leadership is persistent, they're not giving up. Whatever you throw at them, whatever shit you throw at them, they will go and fix it and will do whatever necessary in order to do better. Then that's worth money. Like that's what's gonna make you successful. That's gonna, if someone will acquire the company or the company is gonna go IPO, this is what make the valuation higher or the IPO bigger. And that's kind of, I think, the biggest thing to kind of say to new people that start a business: be persistent and never give up.
Yes. So Michael, we've kind of really addressed the technical aspects of running a business, but let's kind of drop down our conversation here, and let's get back into the house, right? Parents have a responsibility to raising a nation, raising children, and so as immigrant parents who are raising what we would consider second generation immigrants, and we want them to remain competitive and successful in the marketplace, how do we prepare our children so that they can become that?
So my kid is only 9 months old, so I'm probably not the best person to ask that. What I'm trying to do, at least, I don't know if it will be successful or not. I think that the values that the kid is that your kids are getting is mostly what you give them. It's not what they get in school or what they get from other parents or the community you live in. Obviously, it's harder because they might be exposed to like other culture things that you might cherish or might not. But I think it's part of the game, right? We move to a different country and we need to accept the goods and the bads. Overall, I think that the US is a great place to raise a kid. I think it's much more, probably also for you, it's much more convenient than your childhood, right? And as we said before, it's not necessarily better. So I'm trying to find ways to kind of create this constraint, maybe not in the way that were imposed on you, on me, but in different ways, maybe to kind of try to have the kid building his own business at a very young age, or have him collaborating with his friends on having ideas, or starting writing code at a very young age. And this kind of things, this entrepreneurial spirit, I think it's something that you can definitely do at home. You don't need teachers or other people to do it for you. Like you're the parent, and this is kind of what I want to do with my kids.
Okay, so with the age of ChatGPT and other AI avenues, how should immigrants prepare themselves or educate themselves so they can apply their skills in the marketplace?
So if you, when I like when like prior to ChatGPT, if I would send an email to a prospect customer, definitely a few years ago, he would definitely know that I'm not from here, that I'm not American, that I probably won't be able to support him 24/7 because I sit in a place where the time zone is like 12-hour difference or something, right? I think that ChatGPT and AI is another way for immigrants and people that doesn't come from a background of living here or coming from rich families and all this kind of stuff. That's a tool for everyone to bridge this gap to, okay, so you don't have the best English, or you're not, or you need someone to help you to design your pitch deck and you don't have enough money, so you can register to an AI product that will help you do that. Right, so all this kind of stuff are kind of, for me, from my perspective, they're helping everyone, kind of bridging the gap and helping someone from Kenya build a pitch deck that a VC from California will see and will say, oh my God, that's a great pitch deck. I want to invest in this company. So I think that all entrepreneurs, specifically the ones that are coming from a background that doesn't. They cannot afford paying for a designer to design their deck or someone to write the best software. They should utilize all this automation and AI that we see today into their interests and bridge the gap. You don't need to learn in Stanford in order to start your own company, right?
Yes. You're in Miami today, and let's say you find yourself at the University of Miami. You have about 5 to 10 minutes and they give you the freedom to speak to international students. Just what would you say to them?
I would say to them that I think that like the real entrepreneurial spirit is kind of the mindset that if I'm not gonna do that, I will miss out something very big, and my life will go to a completely separate direction. Okay, so when I was raised, I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and start my own company, but it's not the case for everyone, right? But I'm saying that, let's say that you're working in the finance space and you found a big problem, and this big problem, you saw that people are willing to pay a lot of money to solve the problem because it blocks them from making more money. It makes the work very not efficient and all these kind of reasons. If you see this problem and this problem, you can assess it in a way that tells you, okay, this is huge, and you kind of block yourself from going ahead and doing that. In my opinion, that's kind of missing out something very big. I think that most of the things about entrepreneurship you can learn along the way. You don't need to have finance background or know how to build a budget and make sure that all of your metrics are correct and things like that. These things you can hire people to do that for you later, or you can even learn it yourself. I was a software engineer when I started the company, so how to pitch your idea, how to build a financial model, how to do a cross due diligence with an investor. These are all things that I learned along the way. So if you have fire and you have a big problem that you think that the market need to have a solution for, and you're not doing it, that's missing out. And I encourage, you mentioned University of Miami, the best time, in my opinion, to start a business and to take risk is from the moment you graduate, or if you don't go to college even before that, until you start to get married and have kids and things like that, because that's the time where you have most amount of free time. You don't have concerns about mortgage and daycare and all this kind of things. So that's the best time. So I would encourage all the students to at least try. You can fail, and I think that's also a cultural difference with Israel. In Israel, failing with a startup is not considered to be shameful. It's even good, because when Israeli VC looks at you and you tell her, yeah, I built a startup and it failed, it tells them that if they're going to give you money for your next startup, once you have more experience, and second, you're probably not going to fall into the same holes that you had on the first one. So failing in Israel, and I think this is something that should be kind of recognized all over the world, it's not bad. Definitely not in venture building. It's actually good.
So that's the one beauty about America, and I believe Israel, that we thrive on failure, right? In most societies across the globe, if you fail in something, it's almost shameful. The Chinese will hit you hard for failing, Africans will hit you hard for failing, and on and on and on. But in America and now in Israel, we're discovering is you're encouraged to fail, because it's in failure that you find a success. So what are some of the massive failures you've gone through that you overcame?
I think that the first few years at Vicarious were a very big failure. We saw that cybersecurity was hot, and we thought we were going to raise money very quickly. And at the end, it took us 2 years and a half to raise money. We started from technology that was interesting, but it didn't have real life application. So we had to completely change whatever we were building. And overall, I think we didn't do a good job. It was quite tough and discouraging to go through this time. Imagine 2 years and a half without any funding for the company. You don't have salary, you don't have anything. You basically wake up in the morning. You also don't have a lot of customers. So you go to the few customers that you have, you're getting feedback, and you're rebuilding it. So I think there are better ways to do it. And as I said today, think about distribution first. Who is the end customer? How he's going to use it? And only then think about the technology, the product, in whatever you're building. It doesn't necessarily have to be a SaaS product or a software product.
Michael, we are getting to the top of the hour. You are a powerhouse, and I'm sure our community wants to connect with you. How do they connect with you on social media?
So first, they can search me on LinkedIn, and I will be happy to speak to anyone. You can share, I can give you my email, and you can share it back with the community, and feel free to reach out to me. I'm currently on a sabbatical until I'm starting my new company, so I do have time to assist, and I'm happy to do that. So if anyone wants to have an advice or 30 minutes call about his deck or about his strategy, definitely feel free to reach out, and I will do my best.
Immigrants across the globe, we will definitely have Michael Assraf's email address and obviously his handles across social media if you need to get in touch with him. That way he can guide you on what entrepreneur lifestyle looks like. For now, the global house name, Michael Assraf, an inspiring entrepreneur from Jerusalem, Israel. We want to thank you for your time and for the opportunity to come to the Immigrant Nation podcast and to share what the immigrants' journey and entrepreneurs' journey look like from Israel to the US. We would love for you to come back again. Michael, are you open to coming back?
Of course, whatever you're saying, Martin. Whatever you ask, I'm doing without even asking.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Michael, thank you. We are at the top of the hour. We want to be respectful of your time and our time. So thank you so very much for making the time for us. Hopefully we get to communicate with you sometime soon. If there's any way we can be of help to you, please do not hesitate to reach out to the team. Would love to come and help you in any way possible.
Thank you very much, Martin, for hosting me and inviting me for this call. I hope it will help as much as entrepreneurs and immigrants and whoever possible. And yeah, again, thank you and the team for arranging this great podcast.
Thank you. My goodness, you gave us so much. I am sure there is way too much in here for immigrants to meditate on and to learn and grow from. Thank you again for your time. Let's talk soon. Thank you.